There are some people in your orbit who are either voting for Donald Trump or considering it?
For sure. A lot of my friends are obviously my age, so we're a little younger. We've only voted once, for a president. And Trump is kind of all we know. And they're Trump and Biden. They're like, well, we were broke with Biden. We weren't with Trump. And that's kind of the only thing that I'm hearing over and over again is that, well, Trump, we had money. Well, okay.
We did have money with Trump. And while not everybody's struggling the same, we can all agree that things are far from okay with the Harris-Biden administration. Now, we're going to get back to how black voters are opposing Harris with her economic agenda. But let's talk about CNN for a second. CNN is now imploding as they're starting to realize that Kamala Harris is a lost cause, especially with what they've seen with the polls as of late. And guys, before we get started, all I ask that you take 1 second, hit the like button for the video. Thank you so much for subscribing to the channel. Thank you so much for sharing these videos on Facebook and Twitter. Let's get started.
Now, and I do think there's a reason that in our own CNN poll today, 51% of Americans said they judged Trump's term to be a success, and only 37% have judged the Biden-Harris administration to be a success. There is something going on where people are remembering what he did, how he did it, and they're comparing it to what's happening right now.
While I understand that Scott Jennings leans more to the right, he, however, is correct that these are coming from CNN polls. Even the leftist panel that's with him has no defense when it comes to the economy and how the majority of people feel about it. Even Jake Tapper is now asking for questions as he himself interviewed Nancy Pelosi.
Do you think she needs to be presenting more meat on the bones of, I get that she's from a middle-class family, it's great, and I get that she feels people's pains, great, but what about, like, here are the 5 things I'm going to do directly for you? Does she need to be doing more of that?
Well, she'll be doing some of that tomorrow once she'll put forth her economic plan. But people like to have a connection to whoever is running for office, that they share their experience, that they understand their lives. And I think that's what she is establishing.
Now, I think Harris took lessons from Nancy Pelosi when it comes to word salads, because she did not answer the question at all. And instead of using the middle class for all of her economic answers, Kamala Harris has now adjusted. She now uses 3 specific terms: ambition, dreams, and aspirations.
First of all, Latina small businesses are the fastest growing in the country.
Yes, they are.
Right?
Yes, they are.
But included in that is that we don't lack for people who have ambition and have aspirations and dreams and an idea that is a great idea and work ethic. But not everybody has access to the capital.
So true.
And I believe strongly that our small businesses are the backbone of America's economy. So when we grow and strengthen small businesses, we all benefit.
The difference between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump is incredibly clear. One merely wants to tell the American people that she's going to do something for us, while the other has actually done it before and is promising to do it again. So which do you prefer?
Who are you going to vote for and why?
I'm going to vote for Donald Trump this year. I am typically a Democrat. I've voted Democrat every year until Donald Trump ran for office. This year, in the past, I voted for Donald Trump. The reasons has been economical primarily. 3.5 years ago, I made more money. I paid less taxes. Gas prices were cheaper. Now, everything has tripled, including grocery prices. I can go to Subway to get a $7 sandwich for 6 inches now. That used to be half that price, $3. So everything is doubled. My grocery prices is doubled. I'm concerned about the border. We've let millions of people in, a lot of criminals, etc. The border needs to be shut down to where we only bring in those individuals that go through a legal process.
And a huge chunk of the black community is now leaving the Democratic Party because of all that they've heard being promises. To promise us something without action is useless. Not everyone is falling for the drama and the theatrics of Kamala Harris and her campaign. Most of us want something to be done to make life easier for us. And this panel proves that smart Americans can actually see through the smoke and mirrors.
No, she is not presidential, and it will definitely come back to haunt people who vote for her. I think as long as people just don't really look for context in what they're saying or what she's saying, they'll just go along with it. They'll just go along. I was actually listening to a Tim Walz rally today. Just going for those applause moments and those stuff that will appeal to your emotions and but when in reality, they're just intellectually and emotionally manipulating you. So absolutely no, she's not presidential, and it will definitely come back to bite people.
Does anybody disagree with that?
I agree 1000%.
Why do you agree?
I mean, I've listened to a bunch of interviews that she's done, and well, I think she's done maybe like 3 outside of the presidential debate, and you can tell like she doesn't know what to say, and it's like she's reading from a teleprompter. You can see her eyes, but that one she wasn't reading from a teleprompter. That's how you know she didn't know what to say, and that's how she had to get out of there on time. So yeah, it's a bunch. She says a whole bunch of nothing, man. So I definitely agree with Spaces said.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I agree as well. She never answers questions. I actually just sit there and watch. I observe her when she actually is on. When someone actually interviews her, she never answers questions. She give a bunch of word salad. She doesn't. She's not straightforward. If she wants to be presidential, she needs to be transparent about what her policies are. She needs to be transparent about what her plans are for the future. She just never answers questions. And the happenstance that she does, people just fall for it because they're emotional. They go off of, she does the rah-rah thing, try to get you with her emotions. She tries to get you with the fact that, she has a family. I've heard her family story. I don't know how many times. That's what she starts off with. And she just doesn't answer questions. So to me, she is not presidential. Yes, it will come back to bite us in the future.
Let me ask you a question to follow up on that. Is there anything that you like about her?
Not a single thing.
No.
Can anybody check on Kamala Harris and her campaign team? Because I'm certain that they've seen this. This clip is going viral because of its great representation of the truth in this race. Americans are tired of struggling. Not just those from the black community, but all of us. There are many who feel as if they're now in a third world country, which speaks to the volumes of which Donald Trump is held in high regard when it comes to our finances.
There is some appeal there for some black men with Trump. What is it?
Money. Yeah. I mean, Donald Trump has a reputation of being the money man. So
I just think that Donald Trump, in spite of all the craziness he may have in his head, reading some of the things that he talks about with business, I can kind of agree with as far as business-wise, because I'm trying to grow my business.
What do you guys think about that? In all honesty, life could be good under a possible Harris presidency. The only catch is that you just can't be a U.S. citizen. Well, guys, the great wealth transfer is in full effect. And, whether it's Donald Trump that ends up winning the election or if it's Kamala Harris, oh, God, we're in a world of a pickle, as my grandfather would say. Our freedoms are being stolen, guys. Credit card companies are out to get us. And if you don't understand the game, well, you end up getting played by the game. Now, if you're anything like me, guys, you were probably out of shape, maybe in debt, living paycheck to paycheck, and just feeling like the system is just completely taking advantage of you. I remember for a long time, I could rarely ever get any time to spend with my wife. And it's kind of funny because where I used to work with a lot of married men. And a lot of those married men would always complain about their spouses as if they really just didn't even like their spouses, which is sounding like a pretty horrible situation. But that was the case for many of them. They didn't like who they were married to. But I was different. Anyway, through trial and error and through a lot of pain, I figured out how to gain freedom and also lose a lot of weight and actually get in shape. And guys, I'm gonna be honest with you, that was a game changer. To no longer be living paycheck to paycheck, figuring out how to get the credit cards to pay me, the power of a strong credit score. I pay thousands of dollars less per year for the same house as my neighbor just because my credit is better than his is. And this is not to brag. But this is the truth. The banks are literally taking advantage of the poor. It's like the people who can least afford it, they're charging the poor what is like unofficially called a poor tax or a tax on the poor. I'm now at a point where, Number one, I don't pay for credit cards. In fact, credit card companies pay me to use their cards. And I figured out how to build a lifestyle that is just ultimately very, very healthy. I lost a tremendous amount of weight and I put on a lot of muscle. But when I was struggling, I wish I knew people who knew these things. So anyway, I decided to create a community of like-minded people who are also interested, just like me, in living better. So if you guys want to join my community, it's called the Liberty Pursuit Network. It is brand new. Come on over. I'd love to have you guys and join like-minded people. Be positively motivated by others who are also on the same pursuit. So I'm going to leave a link for you guys so you can join me over on the Life Pursuit Network in the description down below this video. So check it out, guys, and let's not be a victim of this great wealth transfer that is taking place right now. Many within the left have cried that this is a violation of election law. However, the comments of these liberal posts have been mostly the same. They're asking if what Donald Trump did could be likened to how the Democratic Party continues to tout and push for student loan forgiveness, because we know that President Joe Biden announced that before the last midterm elections. Would that be considered illegal? And you heard what Donald Trump said. He wanted to make things cheaper for the American people, because adding money to everyone's pocket isn't going to solve anything. It's only bound to make inflation that much worse. And it's also why it's easy to believe that Kamala Harris isn't aware of basic economics. The reason that they're not questioning Donald Trump is because he's been an open book this entire presidential run. And the same could be said for JD Vance. These two have fearlessly answered questions from the news network. And the only reason why he's saying no to a debate is because if he feels as if he's won both of them. There's no need for him to go out and risk another 3v1 on ABC News or CNN. At this point, he's said what he needs to say.
Former President Trump announced on the campaign trail today he will not agree to a second presidential debate with the vice president. He made those remarks during the rally in Wilmington, North Carolina. Earlier today, Harris announced that she accepted an invitation from CNN to participate in another presidential debate here in Atlanta, October 23rd. The former president responding with this.
She's done one debate. I've done two. It's too late to do another. I'd love to in many ways, but it's too late. The voting is cast. The voters are out there immediately. Is everybody voting? Please get out and vote.
Both Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are being blamed for the cost that many of us are facing today.
Is it a little ironic that she could have done that 3.5 years ago since she's been in office? Do you trust the fact that she will bring prices down at all?
I think she's lying through her teeth, quite honestly. Yeah, I don't believe anything she says. I mean, why have we gotten to this point and she's been the vice president for the last 3 years? I think she's just a con artist, says anything she can to get elected, and as soon as she gets elected, it's going to go right back to the way it was.
And despite knowing how voters feel about them, Kamala Harris is still hiding in the basement, hiding from interviews where she doesn't have any control over the questions.
How can we trust Kamala Harris to represent us in front of the most dangerous regimes in the world if she won't even sit for an interview with the American media? Now, I say that, and I admit that I'm a little biased here, because part of the reason I think Kamala Harris should do some interviews is because the American people deserve it.
And you know who's suffering? Her surrogates, who have no answers to why she won't do a proper sit-down interview. And CNBC hosts are pissed. Here's how Senator Chris Coons answers questions about having the VP on their show for a one-on-one interview.
If she would come on this show, and just like you do, and hopefully President Trump's going to come on, but former President Trump, if she would come on, we could get answers to a lot of these things. And I'm just wondering, as a surrogate that advises the campaign, there is an effort to rope-a-dope this thing right to the election, in my view. And the other side's done 40 or 50 interviews with J.D. Vance. I think I don't have to take my shoes off to count on my fingers and toes how many interviews that she's done along with Governor Walz. And that looks like a deliberate effort just not to face the hard questions and to try to, I don't know, I think Americans might finally say, I don't like the way this is working. I want to know. I think Andrew was getting at that in another way, that we would like to know some of it. We'd like to see questions asked and answers provided for all these things. And we may never get that. We only got 40 days left.
We just had Vice President Harris say, yes, let's do another presidential debate.
and Donald Trump say no. And you have to agree that a nationally televised hour-long debate is one way to answer a lot of direct questions.
So is just sitting down with an interview with anyone.
So here's a great example of both presidential candidates being asked the exact same question. But notice how different their answers are.
We really would love to know what your plan is to help lower the cost of living.
Yeah, first of all, thank you both for being here. And yours is a story I hear around the country as I travel. And in terms of both rightly having the right to have aspirations and dreams and ambitions for your family and working hard and finding that the American dream is, for this generation and so many recently, far more elusive than it's been. And we need to deal with that.
How are you going to bring down the cost of food and groceries?
Good. Very good. Thank you. So we have to start always with energy. Always. I don't want to be boring about it, but there's no bigger subject. It covers everything. If you make donuts, if you make cars, whatever you make, energy is a big deal. And we're going to get that. It's my ambition to get your energy bill within 12 months down 50%. If I can do that, we've done a hell of a job. 5-0, not 15, 50. Interest rates are going to follow, and actually they're going to follow for another reason. The economy is now not good, and interest rates, you'll see they'll do the rate cut and all the political stuff tomorrow, I think. And, will he do a half a point? Will he do a quarter of a point? But the reason is because the economy is not good. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to do it. But we're going to get interest rates down, and we got to work with our farmers. Our farmers are being decimated right now. They're being absolutely decimated.
You see how easy it is for Trump to just kind of answer straight away to the question? He doesn't have to talk about how he grew up or the dreams of Americans or how he's middle class or was middle class. He knows what it takes because he's already done it. Kamala Harris, on the other hand, she's completely clueless. And voters are well aware of what she's done to the country. Now, guys, I did a previous live stream where I covered how she plans on making the lives of millions of illegal immigrants that much better than ours. Make sure you guys watch that video right after this one. As always, thank you guys for hitting the like button. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. We'll see you guys next time.